Okay, so now maybe the most juicy part of this module on budgeting is ideas on how to reduce your expenses and also ideas on how to earn more. So this is going to be different for different people depending on their circumstances and kind of what they're willing to do to save more and reach their financial goals sooner rather than later. And so, this is all dependent on individual preference. Some people are okay with kind of going on and living semi comfortably and maybe taking a little longer to achieve their goals. Some people are really motivated to save more and potentially retire earlier or go on that trip sooner. So, how do we turbocharge your savings if that is kind of what you're into? So, let's talk about ideas on how to reduce expenses first. Okay, so the first thing you can do is change your cell phone plan. So a lot of people get caught in kind of higher end plans. They don't really use as much data as they're paying for. They may have an unlimited plan, but they really only use a couple of gigs. I myself am one of those people. So you can change cell phone plans. There are services like Mint Mobile, which have these prepaid cell phone plans which are really cheap. I think around $15 a month. And so, you'll have kind of limited uh, high speed internet, but you're paying a lot less. You may have to pay up front to get the cheapest option. So you can look into changing your cell phone plan. I think that's an easy one where you could save, potentially $50 a month, depending on if you have some high end plan right now and you don't need it. Get rid of unnecessary unused subscriptions. So TV streaming, music streaming, news media, gym. Check to see which of these services you actually use regularly. And it's very easy because a lot of them go on autopay to just accumulate them. And even if you stop using them or are not using them regularly, to just keep paying. So doing a audit of your streaming services and subscriptions is a good way to cut out some unnecessary expenses that are just monthly expenses. They get auto charged and you just don't even notice and you're not even using them. Okay, so you can do some things with your housing that will potentially save you a lot because housing is oftentimes people's largest expense. And so if you can save there, that will go a long way in supercharging your savings per month. And so what can you do? Some simple things. You can get a roommate. So if you live alone, you can get a roommate and split rent. That's a kind of a no-brainer thing. House hacking. So house hacking is a set of strategies that people have been kind of exploring to save on housing while still kind of, for example, you can buy a house and let's say you are only going to live in one room, but you buy a three-bedroom house, you can rent the other two rooms out. So you're still owning a house. You still kind of got into the market of owning real estate. But in order to kind of save some money, and reduce your expenses, you take in some roommates by renting your rooms out. Another strategy people do is Airbnb-ing their house. So they'll buy a nicer house than they would normally buy and maybe spend more. And in order to offset the larger expense, they can basically put their house up for Airbnb for certain periods of time. And so with that strategy, you can earn, in a couple weekends of just renting your house out or your apartment out, a substantial amount that defrays a large part of your expenses. And so, house hacking, this is something that's worth exploring if you're a little more ambitious with, buying real estate and want to figure out ways to be creative with that. You can search house hacking strategies. There's, Reddit threads and just more information on the internet about house hacking. Okay, so find free or low cost ways of entertainment. So a lot of entertainment expense goes to things that maybe you can cut out, like going to the bar, spending money on drinks is a very expensive habit that adds up, especially if you're doing it every weekend, eating out. So there are other ways to entertain yourself that could be cheaper, um, and you can get creative with this. There's many ways. I've listed some here. Um, of course, there's many more, but just finding ways to cut down on your entertainment expenses. Okay, use the library. Obviously they have books there, but you can get magazines, you can get movies. So the library offers some free entertainment options. So you can utilize that. Is even audiobooks now. So use the library and save kind of, I guess that's kind of related to the entertainment expense. Use the internet for comparison shopping. So if you're trying to buy something, don't just go to the store and just buy it. Um, Look on the internet, see where you can get a good deal, see which stores have the item you want for cheaper. So using the internet as a resource for kind of controlling what you spend on things that you need is important. Avoid eating out and eating at home. I think that's kind of a obvious one. The amount of money people spend on coffee, I'm not a regular coffee drinker, but it's really amazing that people will spend $5 for a coffee every day when they can, with a little bit of effort, just make it at home. So, $5 a day adds up. It's a significant amount over a year. So, simple things like this, if you do a number of simple things, they add up over time, especially over the course of an entire year. Okay, so now let's talk about how to earn more. And I think this is not as complicated and does not require as much creativity per se as saving more. I think the savings is, that's something that each person is going to kind of take the effort to do on their own. But earning more, let's talk about a couple of things. I think the most obvious is obtain education and skills. I'm not necessarily saying you have to go to a 4 year college, because if you go to a 4 year college and study something like sociology or some major that is not necessarily going to pay off for you in terms of earnings, it may be a good educational experience, but it may not be the best investment of your time if you're trying to kind of get your financial situation in order. So obtaining an education in things that you know will pay off, and these can be things like engineering, accounting, business. Um, just having a plan for your education for a job on the other side is important, um, especially if you're on a budget, if you don't have a infinite supply of capital to invest in your education. I think it's worth being strategic about that. You can also invest in just getting skills. You can learn how to code. You can learn how to do electrical work, HVAC work, how to be a locksmith. If you're skilled, skilled workers get paid more, and so investing in trade school or some way to get skills that will get you a higher paying job. These are obvious ways to earn more by just upgrading your job situation. Investment income. So with whatever you're saving, instead of spending it on things like trips, or a new car, for example, you could instead divert those savings to investments. And over time, though you're not getting the Instagram nice pictures from your trip or the nice car, you will over time be building up investment income. If you invest in dividend paying stocks, if you buy real estate, rental real estate, this stuff will at first not be yielding you a tremendous amount, especially if you're starting with smaller dollar amounts. But over time, if you stick with the strategy, then you could end up ending more. You can end up earning more in investment income than your actual job. So it just takes, kind of a long-term mindset for this. Okay, um, so again, real estate, that's one option. Stocks, especially dividends, if you want income, there are certain stocks that you can invest in that pay you a kind of fixed income that grows over time too. So we'll be covering more on real estate and stock investing in future modules, but just to put this on your radar. Okay, the other option is to start a business. Uh, the best way to accumulate wealth, in my opinion, is if you can start a business. And I'm not saying a startup or a tech startup per se, but just I have a friend. I'll give you an example. He, with a couple of other friends, invested in a franchise that de-lices kids' hair. So when kids get lice, um, this business, this franchise, they have this proprietary kind of contraption that you put on the kid's head, and it kind of it delices them. It removes it, or it kills the lice. And so he invested in this, and it's doing extremely well. He got all the investment, all the money he invested in it back in, I think, 1 or 2 years, and the business is still going. So it's just pure income for him now. So starting a business is a really lucrative way to kind of generate more income. And if you have a job, start a side hustle. You can consult, you can work. If you have some skills again, if you have a paid job, you can then maybe take those skills and at least have a side hustle on your own. Um, I have another friend who is a massage therapist, and she was saying how some of her peers will just work for another massage firm and just get paid a fixed amount. And the big risk is setting off on your own because you'll start with no clients. So one idea is to, work for a company, but then kind of go off on your own and start building up your own clients and kind of create a side hustle. So that's one way you can be creative about kind of earning more income. The side hustle game, I think is very diverse now with content creation, and there's a whole world to that. I'm not an expert, but there's plenty of resources online that you can find for different side hustles. So there we have it. I think, just to emphasize though, I think the savings, that's something that I think a lot of people can improve on easily. I think the earning more takes more work, but the saving, I think with a little bit of analysis and mindfulness and motivation, you can definitely work on spending less and really focusing on the things that you really care about and the things that you really want, just focusing your spending on those and getting rid of a lot of the kind of mindless consuming that we do. I think that will actually help you appreciate the things that you are spending your money on more. Um, and so that's kind of a psychological side benefit.